The Galactic Council was a powerful, ruling body made up of the most advanced species in the galaxy. For centuries, they controlled the fate of planets, species, and civilizations, maintaining their dominance through strict laws and regulations. They had seen many species rise and fall, always remaining at the top. But one thing they never expected was that a relatively young and unknown species, humanity, would ever pose a threat to their power. Earth, the home planet of humanity, had always been a quiet, distant corner of the galaxy, unimportant in the eyes of the Council. For years, humanity was unaware of the vast expanse of space beyond their own world, focused only on their own survival and development. However, everything changed when they discovered the existence of other intelligent life and began to explore beyond their planet. As their technology advanced rapidly, the Council took notice. But rather than viewing Earth as a promising ally, they saw it as a growing threat. The Council had witnessed other species rise and fall, some with violent tendencies, others with advanced technologies that could challenge their authority. But humanity was different. They weren't just technologically advanced. They were resourceful, innovative, and had an unyielding will to survive. And this made them unpredictable, dangerous even. The Galactic Council couldn't allow a species like that to exist unchecked. If humanity were left to continue growing and developing, they might one day pose a serious challenge to the Council's power. The decision to banish humanity was not made lightly. It was debated among the Council members, but the conclusion was unanimous. Earth had to be isolated. The people of Earth were given a simple, harsh sentence. They would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. No trade, no communication, and no interaction with other species would be allowed. They would be placed under strict quarantine, isolated and forgotten, in the hope that they would fade into obscurity. In the eyes of the Galactic Council, this would be a simple solution. After all, how could a species that had only recently reached the stars be of any real threat? They had not yet mastered intergalactic travel, nor had they shown any ability to stand against more powerful civilizations. The Council believed humanity would crumble, left to its own devices, abandoned and forgotten in the vast emptiness of space. They couldn't have been more wrong. Humanity, instead of crumbling, began to thrive in their isolation. With no interference from the galaxy's advanced civilizations, the people of Earth were free to explore their own potential. The humans' desire to prove themselves only grew stronger with every passing year. The very isolation that the Council had intended to break them was now the driving force behind their resilience. Earth's scientists, engineers, and military leaders worked tirelessly, developing new technologies and strategies that would one day allow humanity to challenge the Galactic Council. They learned to harness the resources on their own planet, creating new energy sources, powerful weapons, and faster-than-light travel. Earth became a fortress of technological advancements, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, but growing ever more powerful with each passing day. The Council, meanwhile, continued to underestimate humanity. They thought Earth's people were nothing more than a fleeting species that would eventually burn out. They believed that keeping humanity isolated would be enough to prevent them from rising to power. But what they didn't realize was that humanity's spirit was not so easily crushed. With every challenge they faced, the humans only grew stronger, more determined to prove that they would not be forgotten. On Earth, whispers began to spread of something greater. A dream of one day breaking free from the isolation the Council had imposed. A dream of rising up against the very forces that had cast them aside. While the rest of the galaxy believed humanity to be weak and insignificant, they were wrong. Earth had become a sleeping giant, quietly building its strength, and it would only be a matter of time before the galaxy would see the true power of humanity. The banishment of humanity was supposed to be the end of their story, a punishment meant to ensure they would never rise up against the Council. Instead, it became the catalyst for something much greater. Humanity was no longer a forgotten species. They were no longer just surviving. They were preparing. They were growing. And soon, They would show the galaxy the true cost of underestimating them. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake. They had not only underestimated humanity's power, but they had also ignored their capacity for growth, innovation, and most importantly, vengeance. And as humanity's strength grew, so did their determination to one day confront the Council and take their place among the stars. But that day was coming soon. And when it came, the Council would realize their biggest mistake, the mistake of thinking humanity was weak. The Galactic Council had made their decision, but they had no idea that their actions would set off a chain of events that would ultimately shape the future of the galaxy. As years passed, Earth's isolation did not lead to its downfall. Instead, it fueled a transformation. The people of Earth adapted, grew stronger, and most importantly, became more resourceful. What the Council had underestimated was humanity's ability to turn adversity into opportunity. In the early years of their isolation, humans struggled. There was fear, uncertainty, and anger as they faced the harsh reality of being cut off from the rest of the galaxy. But as time went on, they began to rebuild, focusing inward. Earth's scientists, engineers, and innovators worked tirelessly, determined to prove that humanity was capable of much more than the Council had given them credit for. They scored the planet for untapped resources, turning every challenge into a stepping stone toward progress. One of the most important breakthroughs came when Earth's top scientists uncovered an ancient alien artifact deep beneath the surface of the planet. It was a discovery that would change everything. The artifact was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It hummed with an energy that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of space itself. It was clear that the artifact was an advanced piece of technology, far beyond anything Earth had developed. And with it came a power that could alter the balance of the galaxy. Dr. Elena Hayes, one of Earth's leading experts in alien technology, was the first to realize the potential of the artifact. It was not just an object of power, it was a weapon. The energy it harnessed could be used to amplify human technology in ways that were previously unimaginable. With this discovery, humanity could build fleets of ships capable of rivaling the greatest civilizations of the galaxy. It could be the key to breaking free from the Council's banishment. Dr. Hayes worked tirelessly to understand the artifact and unlock its secrets. But it was not an easy task. The technology was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, and it took years of study before they could even begin to harness its power. But as Earth scientists made progress, they realized that the artifact held more than just energy. It held knowledge. It was a blueprint for a new era of human technology, and humanity's most brilliant minds began to build upon it, developing advanced weaponry, shields, and propulsion systems that surpassed anything in the galaxy. The power of the artifact gave humanity an edge, but it was not just about technology. It was about the unbreakable spirit of the human race. Every person on Earth understood what was at stake. They had been abandoned, cast aside by the very forces that had once looked down on them. But now, they had a chance to rise up and reclaim their place among the stars. They had been given a second chance to prove their worth, and they would not squander it. As humanity's technology advanced, so did their military capabilities. Their fleet of ships, once small and underdeveloped, began to grow into a formidable force. The ships were sleek, fast, and armed with the most advanced weapons the galaxy had ever seen. They were powered by the artifact's energy, making them nearly unstoppable. And Earth's people had a single unifying goal: to break free from the chains the Galactic Council had placed on them and take their place in the galaxy as equals. But as humanity's power grew, so did the Council's fear. From the shadows, they watched as Earth's ships became more advanced and their military more skilled. They had underestimated humanity, believing that the isolation would break them. Instead, it had forged them into a force of unimaginable power. The Council began to take notice of the growing threat. Their spies had reported that Earth was no longer a fragile, isolated world. The humans had learned how to manipulate advanced technologies, and they had begun to form a network of alliances with other species who had once been considered insignificant by the Council. Slowly but surely, humanity was building an empire, and the Galactic Council was no longer in control of the narrative. But it was not just the Council that feared humanity. Their former allies began to question their loyalty to the Council as well. The Atraxians, a species known for their intelligence and cunning, had begun to have second thoughts about the Council's treatment of Earth. They saw the humans as a growing power and realized that their isolation had only made them stronger. Meanwhile, the Zorviks, a proud warrior race, had started to see humanity as a potential ally, recognizing their shared resilience and determination. The Galactic Council's arrogance had blinded them to the growing threat. They had dismissed humanity as nothing more than a fleeting species, too weak to ever pose a real challenge. But now, the Council was beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. Earth's military power was no longer a secret, and their alliances with other species were growing stronger by the day. The Council had failed to see the one thing that made humanity different from every other species they had ever encountered. Humanity could never be contained. Earth's people were ready to rise, ready to take back what had been stolen from them, and they would do it with a single, unwavering conviction. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. Now, it was time for the Council to pay the price. Humanity's rise to power had been quiet, but now, the time had come for the galaxy to witness the full extent of their strength. The Galactic Council, once confident in their control over the galaxy, was beginning to feel the weight of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity, thinking that isolation would break them. Instead, it had transformed them into a force that was unstoppable. And as humanity's fleet grew stronger, so did their resolve to take back what had been taken from them. The first real move came when General Eli Drake, one of Earth's most respected military leaders, stood at the helm of the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. He was a man of quiet determination, known for his brilliant strategy and unwavering loyalty to humanity's cause. It was under his leadership that Earth's fleet had become the threat it was now. Well-trained, highly disciplined, and equipped with weapons that rivaled the Council's most advanced technologies. Drake knew that humanity's first move had to be swift and powerful. They couldn't afford to make the same mistake the Galactic Council had made by underestimating their enemies. They needed to strike fear into the hearts of the Council and send a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The target was the most important symbol of the Council's power, a massive space station known as Fort Imperium, located on the edge of Council-controlled space. Fort Imperium was not just a military installation. It was the headquarters of the Galactic Council's fleet, the heart of their control over the galaxy. It was the place where the fate of countless species had been decided, and it was here that humanity would make its stand. General Drake knew that taking down Fort Imperium wouldn't be easy. The station was heavily guarded, protected by a fleet of the most advanced ships the Council had at their disposal. But he also knew that the humans had something that the Council did not. Surprise! They had the element of shock on their side, and Earth's fleet, powered by the energy of the alien artifact, was faster and more powerful than anything the Council had ever encountered. The attack came without warning. As Earth's fleet approached Fort Imperium, they activated their cloaking technology, making their ships nearly invisible to the Council's sensors. The Council's defenses were caught off guard as the first wave of Earth's fleet appeared out of nowhere, unleashing a barrage of powerful energy blasts. The shields surrounding Fort Imperium were shattered in seconds, and the station's defensive systems, unable to react quickly enough, fell into chaos. General Drake's fleet moved in swiftly, attacking with precision. Their ships, equipped with weapons powered by the alien artifact, tore through the Council's defenses with ease. Each shot from Earth's fleet seemed to strike true, disabling ship after ship, crippling the Council's ability to retaliate. The once proud and mighty Fort Imperium was now a burning wreck in space, its power faltering as humanity's military machine tore through its core. The attack was not just a show of strength, it was a statement. Humanity was here. They were no longer the quiet, insignificant species they had once been. They were a force that could not be ignored. Inside the Galactic Council's command center, panic spread like wildfire. The Supreme Leader, Tarek, watched in horror as the news reports poured in. Fort Imperium was falling. His fleets were being destroyed at an alarming rate, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. For the first time in his life, Tarek felt the cold grip of fear. He had never imagined that humanity could rise so quickly, so powerfully. They had been written off as nothing more than a passing species, but now they were proving to be the greatest threat the Council had ever faced. "What is happening?" Tarek demanded, his voice shaking. How could they have such power? His advisors, equally stunned, had no answers. The humans had developed technologies far beyond their understanding, and their attacks were relentless. Earth's fleet moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, taking down one ship after another without breaking formation. The Galactic Council, for the first time in history, was on the defensive. The tide of the battle seemed to turn in humanity's favor. With each passing hour, the Council's defenses weakened, their ships dwindling in number. And yet, the attack on Fort Imperium was only the beginning. General Drake knew that if they were to fully break the Council's hold on the galaxy, they needed to send a clear, undeniable message. Humanity was no longer afraid. As the battle raged on, General Drake received word that the Supreme Leader of the Council, Tarek, had ordered a counterattack. But it was clear that the Council's power was waning. Their remaining ships were scattered, their fleet in disarray. Earth's military had proven itself more than capable of handling whatever the Council threw at them. Drake stood at the command center, watching as his fleet continued to push forward. The destruction of Fort Imperium had been a victory, but it was only a small piece of the larger plan. The message was now clear. Humanity would no longer be ignored. They would take back their place in the galaxy, and they would not stop until the Galactic Council had been brought to its knees. In the wake of humanity's victory, word spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Species that had once been oppressed by the Council began to take notice. The Zorviks, the Atraxians, and other civilizations began to question their loyalty to the Council. They had witnessed the rise of humanity, and they saw something in them that they had never seen before. A species that could not be controlled, a species that was willing to fight for its freedom. As Earth's fleet advanced, they knew that this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council had made their mistake. They had underestimated humanity. And now, they would pay the price. The galaxy would never be the same again. As humanity's fleet continued its relentless advance across the galaxy, the once unshakable confidence of the Galactic Council was crumbling. Their most powerful warships lay in ruins, and their headquarters, Fort Imperium, had been reduced to debris floating in space. The attacks were swift, precise, and merciless, and the Galactic Council could no longer ignore the growing threat that humanity posed. What had once been an isolated and powerless species was now a roaring storm, one that threatened to engulf the entire galaxy. The Council had underestimated humanity in a way they could never undo. In their arrogance, they had thought Earth's people would crumble under the weight of isolation. They had believed humanity's growth would be stunted by their banishment. But instead, humanity had thrived, using their newfound freedom to build a powerful empire. General Eli Drake's calculated strikes were just the beginning. And now, Earth's forces were systematically dismantling the Council's hold on power. In the Council's war room, chaos reigned. Tarek, the Supreme Leader, stood at the head of a table surrounded by his top generals and advisors. His face was a mask of frustration and disbelief. Fort Imperium's destruction was not just a blow to their military. It was a blow to their very pride. For centuries, they had maintained an iron grip over the galaxy, and now one isolated planet had toppled their greatest symbol of dominance. "We can't let this continue," Tarek said, his voice trained with urgency. We cannot allow Earth to get any closer to us. They must be stopped. An advisor, his voice trembling, spoke up. But, sir, their technology. It's beyond anything we've seen. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful. Our fleets are being decimated. Tarek slammed his fist on the table. I know that, but we must act quickly before they get any stronger. If we do not contain them now, we risk losing control of the entire galaxy. The Council's response was swift but desperate. They mobilized what remained of their fleets, calling upon allies from distant corners of the galaxy to defend the heart of the Empire. But no matter how many reinforcements they sent, Earth's forces were always one step ahead, striking with brutal efficiency, cutting through their ranks as if they were nothing more than paper. Meanwhile, General Eli Drake and his commanders sat in the control room of Earth's flagship, the Vanguard. The atmosphere was tense, but there was a shared sense of determination. Humanity had come far since their banishment, and they were not about to stop now. Earth's fleet had grown exponentially since the attack on Fort Imperium, and they had already made alliances with other species who were tired of the Council's oppressive rule. The Zorviks, once a proud and independent race, had pledged their support to humanity, seeing in them a kindred spirit. The Atraxians, once loyal to the Council, had also joined forces with Earth, realizing that the Galactic Council's time was coming to an end. Drake stood at the helm, looking out at the star-filled void through the viewing window. The plan was simple, but it was a risk. Earth's forces would strike at the heart of the Galactic Council's power, their homeworld. The Council's central world, located in the deepest part of their territory, was heavily guarded and well defended. It was a fortress, the jewel of the galaxy, and the thought of attacking it sent a chill through the ranks. But if humanity was to truly secure its place in the galaxy, the Council had to be brought to its knees. "We strike at dawn," Drake ordered. "This is the final push. We'll hit their homeworld with everything we have. It's time to finish what we started." The fleet readied itself for the most dangerous mission of their campaign. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot knew the stakes. This would be the decisive battle, the one that would determine humanity's future. They had come too far to turn back now. As the fleet made its way toward the Council's homeworld, tensions ran high. For many, this was not just a military operation, it was personal. Humanity had been humiliated, cast aside, and forced to survive in isolation for far too long. The faces of those who had lost loved ones to the Council's indifference, the children who had grown up without knowing the stars, all burned in their minds as they prepared for the final assault. The journey to the heart of the Council's empire was long and treacherous. They had to navigate through areas of space filled with debris from previous battles and avoid traps set by the Council's remaining forces. Earth's fleet had grown stronger, but they were still vastly outnumbered. The Council's homeworld was protected by a massive network of defensive systems, from energy shields that could withstand even the most powerful weapons to fleets of ships that patrolled the skies, ready to strike down any intruders. It would not be an easy fight. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the fleet arrived. The Council's homeworld was a beautiful planet, covered in lush forests and vast oceans, but now it would become the battleground for humanity's vengeance. As the fleet entered orbit, General Drake's voice rang out across the comms. "All ships, prepare for combat. We're going in." The battle began with a deafening roar as Earth's ships launched their first wave of attacks. The Council's defenses fought back with fierce determination, but humanity's fleet was relentless. The advanced weapons and energy shields, powered by the alien artifact, tore through the Council's defenses, reducing them to nothing more than smoldering wreckage. The human forces moved in quickly, disarming planetary defenses and striking at strategic targets on the ground. On the surface of the Council's homeworld, Tarek and his military leaders watched the destruction unfold. He could feel the weight of impending defeat pressing on him. The tide had turned against them. Humanity was here to stay, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Desperation crept into his voice as he turned to his remaining forces. "We will not fall today. Rally the fleet. We will fight to the end." But the battle was already lost. Earth's forces had proven themselves not just capable of defeating the Galactic Council, they had proven themselves to be the true rulers of the galaxy. The final blow came when General Drake ordered the activation of the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created, a weapon capable of disabling all of the Council's remaining ships with a single pulse. The weapon fired, and in an instant, the last vestiges of the Galactic Council's fleet went dark. Humanity had won. They had risen from the ashes of isolation, shattered the chains the Council had placed on them, and taken their rightful place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council's greatest mistake had been underestimating humanity's resolve, and now they were paying the price. As the last of the Council's forces surrendered, General Drake stood tall on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking out at the smoking ruins of the once mighty Galactic Empire. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity had emerged as its new power. It was the dawn of a new era, one where Earth would no longer be a forgotten planet, but the heart of a vast, powerful empire. And as humanity began to rebuild, they vowed that they would never again be underestimated. The galaxy would learn to fear the name of Earth.